Hey guys, welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and appreciate you guys coming by the channel to check the video out today. Got a little fun video today, or maybe not fun, but different video. Guys, I want to look into my crystal ball 10 years from now to see what, in my opinion, what the sport of bass fishing is going to look like. And actually, I'm going to give you guys two different probabilities. I'm going to give you the probable reality, which is likely to happen, and the possible reality, which could happen if we do the right thing. So we're going to get into that in today's episode, have a little bit of fun with it. I'm also, guys, before we get started, I just want to share with you guys, you've heard me talking about this before, but guys, this is my #1 wintertime bass fishing lure. This is the Megabass X Nanahan. This is the +2. I use the +1 and +2. Guys, this little finessey jerkbait will get you 5 times the bites that a traditional 4.5-inch jerkbait will. I'll put this in my Tackle Warehouse link in the description if you guys would like to try one. Just put it on 6-pound test fluorocarbon line, fish it around main lake and secondary points. Anytime that water temperature is between 45 and 55 degrees, you'll catch a bunch of fish on it. And also, guys, thank you very much for everybody that has reached out to me to book an on-the-water lesson. If you guys are interested, just go to my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler, shoot me a message, and I'll give you guys some instructions on how to fish this thing, so appreciate that. Okay, a lot of you guys probably know what's coming here, but I want to give you guys two different scenarios here because it doesn't, the probable road that we are on right now in bass fishing does not have to manifest if we make the right decisions. But like anything else, if you don't try or you don't make steps or try to mitigate problems, those problems are never going to get better. So let's talk about two scenarios. I want to talk about what's likely to happen, and then I'm going to talk about what could happen if we do the right thing and go down a different road here. Okay, first thing, there's going to be 10 years from now, at the current trajectory that we're on right now, there's going to be a lot of different things manifest. We've talked a lot about the sport over the past 2 or 3 years as just been made unrecognizable through technology. I'm going to briefly touch on this because I don't think we need to rehash it because you guys know my stance on it. But the technological advancements that we've had just the past 5 years in bass fishing have altered the sport. And what that has done, that has given these electronic companies an appetite to continue to do so because it's such a cash cow for them. So I can assure you that advancing technology above and beyond what we are looking at right now is going to be coming on the horizon. And especially, with the AI influence, this is going to be the #1 thing that's going to really threaten the future sustainability of the sport. Because right now, we don't have any guardrails on it. It's the Wild West. It's the Wild West on a macrocosm level, like in our country. There's no guardrails on technology or AI. It's the same with bass fishing, and it's because of money. Guys, money corrupts. Everybody knows it. When you have a lot of money to throw around, you can influence legislation. You can put lobbyists in Congress or in Washington. You can manipulate people, bend them to your will if you have enough money, especially through like campaign donations. So this is the dark side of fishing, specifically 10 years from now, because when you have these technological advancements that come along with big profit margins, there's very few people out there with the balls to stand up against this and say, no, we're not going to do that. So I want you to picture what we have seen with the advancements in the live scope transducer technology and the ability of those units and how they've dominated. And you put another 10 years of that type of technological research and advancements on it, and there's just not going to be any stone left unturned. There's not going to be a dang thing left that's unknown or mysterious or magical in the sport, which is the biggest tragedy in the sport from my standpoint. Another thing with that, guys, is we're going to see a lot more deterioration in our water quality. We currently have a situation where we're making no efforts for climate change mitigation efforts. The denial of the science behind that is absolutely disgusting. So unless something changes over the next 3 or 4 years, we're not going to begin those mitigation efforts to curtail this. And once you do that, you start disrupting the bottom level of the entire life cycle around a lake. You alter the different times of year where you have different type of insect hatches, where other type of fry and smaller fish rely on those insect hatches, and you throw the system out of balance. And once that system is out of balance based upon, differing, periods of the year where it's warmer or cooler, then you start to disrupt the entire system. Now, what that looks like 10 years from now, nobody really knows. That's the only unknown when you talk about stuff like that, is you don't know how long at the time this is going to take to manifest, although it's going to manifest. It's just like, we know that our sun eventually, billions of years now, is going to turn into a red giant and explode, but we don't know specifically the date on there. It's sort of the same thing with that. Another thing we're going to have on there is just more people on the water. As population increases, this is a natural byproduct, not just for fishing, but for everything. But we have seen a tremendous increase in the amount of fishing pressure on our lakes. Prime example, guys, is 20 years ago, I used to fish up here at Stockton Lake a lot in the wintertime. I still do now. But 20 years ago, if I would go up there during like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, the boat ramps would be empty. And now, I went up there 2 weeks ago on a Tuesday. I had to park in the overflow parking and multiply another 10 years on that. And a lot of this, it has to do with increased interest in the sport, everything that goes along with it. Our lakes are going to be getting more crowded. And as a result, those fish are going to be getting more difficult to catch. There's going to be more pressure on them. They're going to get more highly educated, everything that goes along with that. Another thing that's going to happen in 10 years, if we go down the same road, is this tournament fishing world. It's already done it now. We've already entered a realm where it's sort of like a financially elite sport. And we've seen this huge income disparity in anglers, big time income disparity. If you fish tournaments, it's undeniable. That's even going to get worse, because what you have is that the tournament world per se is going downhill in terms of the interest from sponsors. And therefore, that's why the payouts are so bad in tournaments now. And that's why the entry fees are so high, is because there's too many dang tournaments. And when you have everybody and his brother has a tournament circuit, there's only so much advertising dollars to go around. So therefore, the advertisers, there's not going to be as many advertisers to subsidize all these tournament organizations to help boost the payouts like we used to have 25 years ago. And your payouts are going to continue to drop, and your entry fees are going to continue to rise with the overhead costs of putting a tournament on. And therefore, what you're going to have is the people that are competing in tournaments are going to be the ones that are financially independent, where they don't have to worry about a payout. They don't have to worry about how much an entry fees cost. And it's going to push aside the average American that simply does not have the financial resources, to do that. The average American that has to pay their bills and has to scrape by, to have equipment and all that type of stuff, they're slowly going to get pushed aside from that. The whole thing, another thing with this technological advancement in there is since technology is more, it's applied more to younger anglers, you're going to see a huge demographic shift, specifically in tournament anglers, becoming younger and younger and younger. It's going to push out the older veterans that have, different, more, experience with that. And I'm not saying that is not a natural course, but it's not a natural course when you have technology do that. The natural course of events is like somebody that happens with your football player. When you get to be in your mid-30s as a football player, look at Travis Kelce with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, he was a freaking hammer 10 years ago, but he's 35 years old now, and he's going to be getting pushed out by the natural process. But when you get pushed out of a sport because of technology, that's not the same thing. That's a degradation to the sport. So we're going to see that. And there's other things that go along with it. I mean, so much of it, guys, is sort of like the technological, environmental, and financial ends of it. They're really going to, it's really going to hurt the sport in a big way in 10 years from now. Okay, now let's change this up a little bit and let's look at the possible reality if things are done right, what fishing is going to look like. And And by the way, before I get into this, guys, all the stuff I just talked about, it's going to result in a degradation of fishing quality across the board. Fishing is going to get tougher and tougher and tougher once all these offshore, forward-facing sonar fish get exploited. Those are going to be done. They're not going to have their safety, sanctuary areas. It's going to devastate the quality of fishing. Here's the other reality, the possible reality, which is a lot less likely, because we do not, like so many facets of our life today in business and government and all that type of stuff, bass fishing does not have they don't have the best people in positions of power to make the best decisions. We've all seen that. So this is a lot lower odds, but nevertheless, it can happen if we simply are aware of it and do the right things. If 10 years from now, let's say, for example, next year, we have some type of a governing body, or we have some type of a paradigm shift, and we completely get rid of forward-facing sonar technology and any type of technological advancements beyond just two-dimensional sonar. If we have something like the state game and fish departments, if they would come out and say, it's using forward-facing sonar or any type of technological advancement beyond two-dimensional sonar is going to be illegal in the state of Missouri. Number one, just imagine what the shift that would make in the sport. You can get into everything with that. You can get into and one thing before I get into this, guys, don't ever forget the fact that what the forward-facing sonar has done to the bass fishing economy in terms of the industry itself. It has basically devastated tackle sales through the elimination of a lot of different lure categories. Okay, back to the new one. If you do that, if you eliminate this forward-facing sonar, number one, the bass fishing economy, and market, it completely improves. You have companies making more money because now other lure categories come back in the fold again. Number two, with that, you don't have the pressure on the fish to exploit all these fish that were normally protected before. You get rid of your income disparity across the board in fishing. You return to the sport where it has the mystery and the magic and the unknown about it, where you actually have to fish to find fish. So that one aspect of getting rid of forward-facing sonar, whether it be the state agencies, the conservation departments, or some type of, like myself, if I was a U.S. senator, or I'd introduce a bill, to ban forward-facing sonar from our lakes across the country, and I'd try to get it passed. I'd get as many people on board. I think I could probably do it, but something like that. There's got to be some type of person or entity or agency that surfaces that has the political and financial clout to ban forward-facing sonar from fishing. That's the number one thing. Second with that is we have got to have some type of environmental regulations as far as the mitigation of pollution. And, we talked about this before, guys, but when you talk about fishing and hunting, you can't separate the two. You cannot separate bass fishing or deer hunting or whatever from political legislation that either deregulates or regulates environmental safeguards. Because any time that you interrupt the food cycle, the food chain, the balance, which a lot of this is done with pollutants, whether it be airborne or water pollutants or whatever, it's a recipe for disaster. You cannot screw with the food chain and expect sustainability to occur, from now on. So until we get somebody in the positions of power that say, no, you will not be allowed to pump these emissions into the air. You will not be allowed to pump all these point source pollution into the water. You're not going to do it, or we're going to shut your ass down. That's the choice you make. You either make these mitigation efforts, you put in some type of a regulatory process or some type of whatever in your product that you're making that eliminates this pollutants that's beginning to put in our air and water. We are not going to pollute our air and water so you can make a buck. And right now we don't have that, guys, because all these companies that are responsible for polluting our air and water, they have people in positions of power. They bought and paid congressmen and senators and whatever to either block or push or, dismantle or whatever, some type of legislation to protect our environment, our air and water. And for my life, guys, I don't understand why any bass angler or hunter would support somebody that undermined their very own playing field? Why would you support somebody that supports legislation that makes your water more polluted or your air more polluted or gets rid of your wildlife habitat where you're deer hunting at or anything like that? So pay close attention, guys. Everybody's voting record is on record out there. You can see how they vote on issues. Pay attention before you cast a vote for somebody that's going to undermine the very thing that you love to do, whether it be hunting and fishing. Okay, next thing with that is, with the elimination of all this and everything out there, if we have people in positions of power within this industry in the tournament realm that understands the fact that there's this huge financial disparity amongst anglers, where the sport is turning into an elitist sport on a competitive level, if somebody would emerge and say, look, we cannot allow this dude over here that is a trust fund baby or has a ton of money to have a freaking $150,000 boat, $150,000 truck, stays in a $5,000 a week Airbnb at a tournament, while this guy over here has got a 30-year-old bass boat with a two-cycle outboard on it, and he's got a little 5-inch LCD screen up front and one on the console to fish in the same tournament. That is not fair. We have got to have some type of a level playing field financially in the sport, so it doesn't turn into this financially elite sport that it is already turning into now. And again, right now, it's the same with everything else. We don't have people in positions of power that put their foot down to do that. It's like, whatever, do anything that you want to do with it. And then another thing with that, as far as you look at the fishing industry in a whole, the whole fishing industry, it's like when you start incorporating, when you start setting up a situation where you do not have technology that influences the buying patterns of anglers out there, where that's eliminated, where the only thing people want is a spinning rod with a forward-facing sonar minnow, and you get rid of that completely and you start opening up everything. You start opening up, everybody's using topwaters and crankbaits and jigs and Texas rig worms again, stimulates the bass fishing economy, makes it better for that. And then we have got to have one of the things that we have got to have in bass fishing is a regulatory body of dudes that have critical thinking skills. I'm not talking about a Bassmaster advisory board that talks about forward-facing sonar, that 99% of the Bassmaster advisory board members have gotten to that position through forward-facing sonar. I'm talking about a completely nonpartisan, non-biased, critical thinking, intelligent, future vision-oriented group of guys out there that set some type of standards on what is allowed and what's not allowed in the sport, as far as the tournament organizations, how many tournaments, some type of oversight on the lakes that say, okay, you guys are not going to have 10 tournaments on Table Rock Lake this weekend. It's like, if you want to have a tournament, there's going to be one tournament per day allowed on the lake, and then figure out the number of people and scatter it through 365 days of the year. It's like, I was at Table Rock Lake last year, guys. One day there was over 1,000 tournament boats on the lake. There was like 7 or 8 big tournaments. Who in the hell authorized that? Who in the hell at Table Rock Lake that had the authority said, okay, come on down, guys, we'll put 1,000 boats on the lake? That is the most irresponsible, just inept decision I have ever said. We have got to regulate these tournaments tighter, where there's not as many anglers on the water, because all that does, it makes it bad for everybody. It makes it bad for the recreational anglers that are out there trying to enjoy a day on the water. It makes it tough on the tournament anglers themselves to try to find places to fish. You got safety issues with it, the whole 9 yards. But right now, we don't have anything like that. So I just wish that we had some oversight with this. We do not have any oversight in the tournament world almost at all. And as a result, you've seen what's happened for the past 5 years, guys. I have been in the sport up to my neck for 40 years. And I can tell you for sure, the last 5 years that we have seen in the sport have been the worst 5 years that I have seen since I've been fishing since 1980 in tournaments. So I don't know, guys. It's hard to get human beings to do the right thing unless they're forced to do the right thing. And those are the two possible realities. If we do that second reality, what I talked about there, the fishing, we are going to create a sustainable, thriving fishery situation for future generations from now. But if we don't, man, it's just not looking good. So we got the choice to do it. A lot of it just depends on awareness and lack of apathy and, just seeing it for what it is. And I don't know, I think about this every day, though, I really do. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think about it. We'll check in later.